the old British Museum reading room was transformed into what is now called the British Library. Uh, I received a phone call from the gentleman who was the incoming head of this institution, who told me over the long-distance phone that they were inaugurating their new existence with a week-long celebration called An Age of Information. I said, "Why are you calling me, sir?" He said, "Well, we only want you there for the last day, Friday after tea time, when you and two other gentlemen will have a panel discussion on what it means culturally to have entered the age of information." I said, "You don't want me?" He said, "Oh, yes, we do want you." He said, "There will be Sir So-and-so and Lord So-and-so." I said, "I don't know who they are." He got rather offended and explained to me in rather hurt tones that Sir So-and-so was the leading British authority on information retrieval. I told him honestly, and it's still true, I did not know what information retrieval was, and I did not wish to find out, and I still don't know what it is. I said, "Who is the other gentleman?" And then he said quite coldly, "He is our leading authority on software." I said, "I've never learned to type. I'm not at all sure what software is." He said, "It doesn't matter." He said, "In any case, Professor Bloom, you ought to come. You will represent the book." I said, "This is ridiculous." I said, "You're going to ask me to have a discussion with an authority on something called information retrieval and an authority on software, and I, wretched creature, I'm supposed to represent the book? I am highly inadequate to represent the book. Anybody would be, and I will not come. Goodbye, sir." But that is the British Library. I think the Library of Congress, where I believe I speak today in the Mumford Room, has not gone quite that far. At least I hope not. I'm not that much in Washington these days. But these cracks and strains, um, which have deeply wounded our universities and colleges, and which have, I think, destroyed, for cultural purposes, a great institution like the New York Times. I think they operate now in the great public libraries also. I've been speaking at a great many public libraries across the country, and I asked them about their rare book collections. I asked them whether they are maintaining themselves as circulation librarians, and they disheartened me by telling me all too often that they're only open 3 days a week, and all too often they tell me that they now concentrate entirely upon providing computer services. And it breaks what is left of my heart, because I would have been nowhere in this life without the various branches of the New York Public Library when I was growing up. I started reading at the Melrose branch of the Bronx Public Library when I was still so small I couldn't carry the books home. My three sisters, much older, kindly carried them for me, and I went from the Melrose branch of the Bronx Public Library, after I'd read through it, to the Fordham branch of the Bronx Library, which is its research branch, and I used that up. And I descended at 15, clutching my nickels in my hand for the subway, to the 42nd Street Library, determined to read through that in the main reading room, and of course I would never have succeeded. But soon enough, I was a Cornell undergraduate, having won a fellowship, and spent 4 years trying to read out that library, and for the last 46 years have been trying to read out the Yale Library, which no human being can read through, though I've done what I could. But it worries me deeply what is happening to our public libraries, to our library systems in general. They used to receive much more government funding than they receive now, and I do not hear anyone in either party running for office this time talking about public libraries except to, out of the shibboleth, more and better computers, one computer per child.
You go back to what you said, if you don't mind, at Yale, and your politics versus the other professors. What would you say the political?
I don't think it is. Forgive me for interrupting you, Brian. I don't think it's a political question. I'm tired of being tarred. I've been voting for Democrats for president or for socialists when I could find them for, let's see, I started when I was 18. Here I've been voting for 52 years, and I've never voted for a Republican for dog catcher, and I wouldn't start now. I forgive all the Republicans out there, or let them forgive me. I'm not a conservative. I'm anything but a conservative. I think that the United States has been almost destroyed by Ronald Reagan and his legacy. He came into office, that charming, smiling fellow, and he assured us we could all emancipate our selfishness, and that is what we have proceeded to do on a national level. And I think we have done terrible things to the poorer people in this country. And Mr. Clinton, whom I voted for twice, nevertheless signed the welfare bill and put 5 million more children under the poverty line. Let it be said in his defense that I gather he has done everything he could to partly make up for this, as best he could, but still. I am not happy with him. No, I don't think this is a political difference. I don't even think this is a cultural difference, because I don't think there can be cultural differences in that sense. It's an intellectual difference and an aesthetic difference. And though I hate to use the term because it can so easily be misconstrued in a religion-mad country like the United States, it ultimately has to be a spiritual difference. Either you believe that reading and teaching and thinking about the best that has been thought and written and said matters and does everyone a great deal of good, or you do not. And most of these people now in the universities, and certainly these people in the media and the New York Times, don't believe that at all. Either you believe that, what has it got to do with politics? Leon Trotsky, who was a great, though murderous human being, but a remarkable writer, and in his own way a remarkable literary critic. He wrote quite a book called Literature and Revolution, which I frequently cite against the politically correct and the School of Resentment, because in it he addresses himself to the revolutionary or Marxist writer, and he says, take Dante for your textbook. And he is quite right. Indeed, whatever your politics are, whatever your aspirations are, take Dante for your textbook, take Shakespeare for your textbook, take Cervantes or Chaucer or Homer, or indeed the Bible, not as fundamentalists read it, but as we ought to read it. Take indeed the best that has been written for your textbook and educate yourself from it. I begin this book by saying information is readily available to us. Where shall wisdom be found? And the answer, it is to be found where it was always to be found, in the greatest minds and the greatest writers, and they are usually the same. It is to be found in Shakespeare and Milton. It is to be found in William Blake. It is to be found in Dante. It is to be found in Cervantes.